and welcome to Rainbows and Silver Linings, where we are hoping to find, God's promises in the midst of this storm, and that we have that hope to cling on to. And do not be afraid. Do not fear. I think that's one of the most often used phrases in the Bible, is to not be afraid. And things will work out. We know the end of the story. God's going to win in the end. So, in any case, I want to bring on a special guest today. His name is Shannon Fox, and he's also a part of this That Way network. And you can find him on Fox and Archibald. And without further ado, here is Shannon. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. We do have a lot going on here with the economy. That we talked a little bit before we went live here. I've been dealing with trying to get a building listed for sale that we tried selling 3 years ago. We were able to rent it out successfully, thankfully, for the last couple years. Then earlier this year, our tenant said, I can't afford the rent. I'm moving in, because she was renting the apartment as well as like a retail store down below. And she's like, I'm moving out. I'm getting married. I don't need the apartment. Please reduce my rent. Well, then that, of course, has a cascade effect on us that then we're not going to be able to afford to maintain the building. So then we had to put it on the market, but we had already had it on the market, and we had it on the market for a year, 3 years ago, with no offers. So
Wow.
we listed it for auction. Well, long story short, we got an offer. It's finally been sold.
Perfect.
And thankfully that's been taken care of today. So there's my silver lining on this, and hopefully we can move forward and put that chapter behind me. But you've got things going on in your life as well. So what's the storm that you're weathering right now, Shannon?
The Thursday before the 4th of July, I guess about the 1st or the 2nd, my boss tells me, he says, I hate to bring this bad news on you quick, but he says, I'm going to be closing my store in a week or two. He says, I don't want to pay rent for another month. He says, it's just, he said, I've got about $6,000 expense a month here in the store, whether I sell anything or not. And I work as an appliance person. I do repairs, and I sell machines and answer the phone and do deliveries. And my boss does the same. He does exterior repairs. And what's happened is this economy has gotten so bad that the price of parts has went up so much because of the shipping. And the fact that you can't go to, say, Walmart or Lowe's or Home Depot and buy a new refrigerator in a box. You have to wait 3 weeks to 9 weeks to get one because of this back order, because they're not available, because the circuit boards are not available to make it work. There's only certain models available. A lot of people don't realize this, but that's going on in all appliance industries, and actually a lot of auto industry as well. And a lot of it has to do with the circuit boards. But because of this, we're not getting the turnover from the used machines. When you buy a new machine and a guy hauls off the used one, my boss or somebody like my boss ends up with it, and it trickles down back to our shop, and that's how we make our money. We repair and fix those machines and put them out on the floor and sell them in a store. Well, that industry has about died in about the last 6 months, and it's just crazy how fast it's happening. It's because you can't go buy new stuff at the store anymore and get it Johnny on the spot. And because of that, he's missing the opportunity to get the turnover with the used stuff, the haul-offs and things like that. And so
That's
you
kind of
can't
like
have
what's
it.
going on with the cars, right? Nobody could get a new
Exactly.
car, so then the used car prices went through the roof.
Exactly. And so you literally cannot find used appliances to buy today to repair to resell. And so it kind of killed this whole purpose of having the store. And so he went back to using like a storage building to sell a few machines, but to work on machines. And he does a lot of repairs out of his house. And I think that's what he's going to go back to doing. But in turn, I end up losing my job behind it, which I'm not fretting about it. I filed for unemployment, which I've never done once in my life. But it shouldn't have been like this. That my boss, I worked for this guy 10 years, and he's worked hard to keep that store open. And he's been through a lot of stuff to make it maintain, make it function. We drive to Austin, Dallas, wherever to get machines to make it work. And for him to lose it behind just purposeful bad economy, and I believe that's all Joe Biden's fault, or at least the Democrats' fault, for the policies and the things they've done to our supply chain with our supply chain issues. I'm sure the COVID was a part of it, but I think more than that, it's the way they're running our country right now. It's actually hard to get a lot of things that everyday necessities that people need. I mean, look at the baby formula shortage. That was ridiculous. That's the
Mm-hmm.
way they're managing our logistics right now on a lot of things, not just appliances, and it's killing the small business.
Mm-hmm.
And so in turn, I've had to go file for unemployment until my unemployment kicks in, which I don't know how that even works. I just never done it before. I just figured I'd get on it for a month or two until I can get me the job that I want. I want to get a job with benefits this time. Try to go to work maybe for the Veterans Association or something. Go to work for the VA hospital. That would be a good job. But I scrap metal. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I buy AC units. I bought about 10 AC units in a week, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
gonna go buy some more tomorrow. And I have access to sell them, break them down, and sell them, and take them to the scrapyard here in town. And so I'll buy them for $30, $20 a piece for those outdoor condenser units. And then when I get done separating them and sorting them into all their different precious metals, I turn it into 40, 50, $60. And you end up with 10 or 15 of them in a week. It's a paycheck.
It is. It is. I mean, that's always good to have that, kind of a side hustle. Even if you've got a 40-hour-a-week job, you just in this economy, you don't know how long that's going to last. My husband has been downsized before in the 2008 to 2010 recession that we had back then, and I was running my own children's consignment store at the time, which we didn't have Facebook Marketplace, and eBay was still fairly new. People didn't know how to do that. So I served a need in the community where I would buy used kids' clothing and equipment and then resell it for a profit. And so that managed to get us through, that bump in the road there. But it was never like really terribly profitable, unfortunately. And then things change. Like the buggy whip makers are out of business because new technology comes along, and so we got Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist, and eBay is so much easier to use, and people could just sell direct now, and they didn't need a consignment store. So it was really struggling those last few years there. But we were very thankful when we moved out of Maryland that we had somebody able to rent our building until we were finally able to sell it. But yeah, with this economy, I'm just really thankful I was able to get anything out of it. We basically sold it for what we purchased the building for 14 years ago, but
Wow.
at least I've got something. So, but side hustles are really important, and the fact that
Absolutely.
you've got those skills, those are things that you can hire yourself out to be able to help people. But of course, you still need to have parts because sometimes you can't just fix things. You actually need a part to replace.
Absolutely. About 20 years ago, my dad was a roofer, and so was his dad, and I done it for a while when I didn't want to go to high school, and I realized this is not for me. I done it enough years. I was like, oh, I hate this. And so my dad taught me scrapping while I was roofing because sometimes it was like lead boots and different things on the job when you get done roofing a house, and my dad always saved that stuff, and I never really understood why. And one day, him and my uncle was cleaning the stuff in the backyard, and I helped him, and we went to the scrapyard, and I was probably 15, 16, and I was like, they took all this stuff and made a few $100s off of it, and this was throwaway on the job over
Mm.
X amount of time. And at one point, years later, I was going to a temporary service, 6 o'clock in the morning, had to be all the way across town and try to be there and be one of the first ones in line to make sure you get a job that day. And they only paid like 35, $40 a day. It was horrible, right?
Mm.
Digging ditches, whatever they got for you, you got to do it. But one day I'm running a little bit late, so I missed my ticket for the day. They give my ticket away. And so I was headed back to the house, and I was like, what am I going to do? I got to make something today. And I run across the refrigerator and the stove, threw them in the back of the truck, and I just zigzagged around Garland on my way back to Mesquite, where I was staying. And by the time I got back to Mesquite, I had a truckload of stuff. And so I didn't clean it or separate it or anything. I didn't go to that much trouble, but I just sold it all in the back of the scrapyard, the one on the way to the house, which I'd never been to before. And I made like $48. And I was like,
So you made more than you would have if you worked all day.
and it's like 11 o'clock and I was done for the day. I was like, holy cow, I made more money in a few hours than I did all day doing this temporary service mess. and I never went back to the temporary service. And for 11 years, that's what I did for a living in Dallas. And some years I made 50, 60, $70,000 just getting out and buying a trailer and putting it in an AC shop's back lot. And when they fill it up, I give them a couple $100, and then I get to go take it, clean it, sell it, and bring them back an empty trailer.
Yeah, because the more work you put into separating out those more expensive parts, then you're going to get more from the scrapyard, right?
Absolutely. And that's what I do. I've got probably about 3,000 pounds of metal in my backyard right now, and the money's on the porch. It's the coils and the buckets of copper, and
that's your bank.
That's the bank, and it was really a good thing to learn, because I mean, any time in life that I've lost a job or be in any kind of transition, if I moved, as long as I got a vehicle, I know I can go to any city and go make a living junking. I've done it before. I mean, worst case scenario. One of the things about, see, here's the silver lining for you. With me being unemployed and this being bad news, I now finally have the time to go talk to all these mechanical contractors and AC guys and AC companies and these people that work out of these storage units and warehouses that do HVAC work. And the more of these people I've met in just a week's time, I've met 6 or 7 people that are, some of them are now current business, some of them are future business, but as long as I keep pushing towards that, I may not have to go back to work. I'll just go back to working for myself, which is the ultimate goal. Because I done it in Dallas, and I really enjoy the junking. It's fast money, and I can spend $150 on air conditioners in a day and fill up the truck, buying them from these AC guys, and come home, break them down 2 or 3 hours, and it turned into $350. And so you make a day's wage, a good day's wage, as long as you know where to go buy the stuff, and that's the trick. And I learned that along the way, just thinking about where would it be, who's got it, who's willing to get rid of it, what's it worth to them to get rid of it for their time and purposes. Because like an AC shop is so busy right now this time of year.
Sure.
So busy. And they have to pay their guys $15 or $20 an hour to clean this stuff. It's in their way because they're constantly pulling them out all summer long. And so I'm at the right time.
And their main business is to fix the AC units and repair, get the customer up and running.
Right, exactly. And so that's just kind of something in their way a lot of times. And they're not usually giving that stuff away because they know its value. But you can usually work a deal with them. I usually give like $20 a unit for them. And it seems to be a pretty fair price. If I can double or triple my money off a few hours spent breaking down a bunch of them, it's good money. It pays better than by the hour for sure. And I've been doing it every weekend for ever since I've been in Waco. I do it on the side, you know.
Yeah, I saw the episode you did with Matt when he came out to visit you, and you're separating all that stuff out. So, yeah, I mean it's good, but you know what it is that you're looking for and what's valuable. Like when I was running my children's consignment shop, you know, there were certain things that I knew, hey, that's going to be valuable. You know, I could resell that for more money and be able to find new homes for things. And
Absolutely.
So yeah, I totally get it.
When I was junking in Dallas, I did a lot of resale as well. About a third of my money was resale. I had like restoration shops that would buy the Dearborn grates. You know what I'm talking about? And commode tank lids and good working appliances and lumber and hardwood floor. And if you pull the nails out and antiques, I've sold so many antiques and there's so many resale shops across, like say Dallas. 100 antique shops in Dallas, and a lot of times when you're out there junking, you find the coolest stuff and you don't know what to do with it. You can find a place for it. So you sell everything from car parts to antiques to your scrap metal and even pallets. Sometimes there's always a market out there for what you can put in the truck if you just know where to get rid of it.
Yeah, those pallets, some of those pallets made out of hardwood oak. If you know how to break those down and sell it to people like me that make signs out of it, that's valuable. Lumber is expensive.
Exactly. Absolutely. I've always liked the resale business. I guess that's one of the reasons I like the junking. I made a joke with Matt when he was out here in Texas with me breaking down the Macy's that day, and I said, I bet I do more for planet Earth with my scrapping metal than the entire Democratic Party.
I know. I was going to point that out, that conservatives do more to conserve our resources than any
Absolutely.
government mandated programs are. Um, they want to have this here in California. I'm in Kern County, and we haven't had where you have like the trash versus the recycle versus the compost. I don't know. Kern County is just a much more rural county, and so they just haven't paid to have trucks come out three different times to collect all this stuff. But now they've made it a law where we're going to have to do that. But it's just ridiculous. People who are out here and are having a garden, they already know what the value of composting is, and if they don't, well, I don't know. It's so much work. You got to make it where it makes sense economically for people, and they'll figure it out, like
We
how to
have the
make money
trash
off of
truck.
junking.
We have the trash truck. We have the recycling truck, which picks up two or three different kinds of cans, the blue can, the green can, and then we have the brush haul off, which is like if you have tree limbs and stuff, which is once a month.
Hmm.
And so you end up with three different trash trucks running
Hmm.
to sort all this stuff out. But I'm glad they at least recycle here. A lot of places don't.
Hmm.
Is California big on the recycling as far as your bins and your?
Most places, as I said, in our particular area, they haven't been picking up any recycling, and they have a recycle center in our town, but they've had so much trouble getting staff that it's been closed for the last month and a half at least. So you couldn't recycle in town if you wanted to. You'd have to go, drive another half hour away to find the next closest recycling place. But I've heard
Right.
that that it just hasn't been paying off, because and they had been selling our California recycle stuff has been shipped to China, and China doesn't want it anymore.
Right. Well, I actually know a little bit of history to that one. China was getting all the waste plastic and buying it for recycling purposes, right? Because
Hmm.
they were sending the ships over there full of stuff, and then they had to send the ships back empty, right?
Hmm.
And so they were putting the recyclables on the empty ships to save the trip, right?
Sure. At least
That
they
way
get something.
you get something out of both ends. And so it was really lucrative for them to do that. And what they were doing is they were having Malaysia and Indonesia clean the plastic for them and separate the waste for them. And at one point they decided they weren't going to do that anymore. The government got involved and they stopped it because it was causing a lot of pollution in these areas because they weren't able to handle it properly, not the quantity. And so they cut it off, and in
Right.
process the whole plastic market went from recyclable one day to the next day is we don't know what it's worth. It ain't worth enough. I remember because I used to sell Lexan and polycarbonated plastics.
Hmm.
If you know what that is, that's like sign plastic
Okay.
and like bulletproof glass,
Hmm.
like really really thick plexiglass that you almost can't even break with a sledgehammer.
Hmm.
I used to have a couple sign companies that were clients of mine in the scrapping, and I figured out what to do with the plastic. There's places that buy that plastic, and Lexan is the most valuable, and they pay you by the pound for it. But at one point, it's worth 30 or 40 cents a pound, which is great money because it's heavy.
Hmm.
And one day the market goes down to like 3 cents a pound, and I was like, what happened? I was like, I mean, the bottom fell out, and I researched it, and that's what I found out is the whole recyclable plastic industry and even the glass industry kind of went by the wayside over the fact that China was no longer wanting our plastic, wanting our
Hmm.
recyclables. And it started from what happened in Malaysia because they were basically farming out the work, and that deal fell through. But another economic crash over something simple.
Yeah. We just got to work smarter, not harder. To send all our trash overseas, and yeah, that's ridiculous. And
Yeah.
yeah, I've heard that most of the trash that's in the ocean comes from Asia and Africa. Well, it turns out it's our trash that we sent over there. That's what's in the winding up in the oceans,
Right,
because
right.
we're trying to recycle, we're trying to do the right thing, and and unfortunately, as with most things with the liberals, good intentions wind up with really bad results.
I don't think it's even good intentions on their part. I think it's kind of like how they name bills. They give it just the opposite of what it is. I think I think it's bad intentions with the naming issue. You know, if it's a they call it the Voter Reform Act. If it's really about going the opposite direction with the truth, you know,
Mm-hmm.
they've always got their an infrastructure bill has only got 12% infrastructure in it. Why don't you name it what it really is? And so that's what I
Work
see.
bill. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Right, and that's what I see a lot of times when the Democrats are playing these games. It's not even that they care what you think, but they've got to put a stupid label on it. You know, like when they call something an equity plan, that's a bad sign. You know, equity sounds like equality. It sounds like a good
And it's
thing.
totally not.
It's
They
totally
want,
something different.
yeah, they want equal outcomes instead of, equal, yeah, opportunity. But in terms of like intentions, though, I mean, I think the average Democrat voter though has the good intentions. They see what the Democrat leaders are saying, what their intentions are, and they're like, yeah, I'm for justice, I'm for cleaning the environment, I'm for safety in our schools and everything. And so I think most of the average Democrat voter really does have good intentions, but with everything that's
Oh, I
been
agree.
going on, can we maybe find some silver linings with how badly this has been managed? Have you seen where people who you have been more Democrat have been thinking, all right, it's time to vote these bums out come this November?
I have. I've seen. I do done a few videos on people that I've seen that have just changed over, converged, but just people in my surroundings. Um, there's nobody I know that has a nice thing to say about Biden, and I know people that are Democrats and Republicans. 90% of the people don't want to talk about it if they're on the other side. You know, they really don't. They don't really have much to say at this point.
Hmm.
I asked a lady at the store a couple of weeks ago. She was pumping gas behind me, and I said, boy, these gas prices are killer. She said, yeah, I'm gonna have to get me one of them stickers because I got a bunch of these stickers, right?
They are all over our gas stations here in California, which, California is supposed to be 3-1 Democrats to Republican, but those
Uh
things
huh.
they're always having trouble getting
Ever.
those off because people are putting
Well,
them back on.
well, I got one on my gas tank. You know, my door for my gas tank on my truck. So I've got one of those stickers on that, and she says I'm gonna have to get me one of them stickers. I said I don't have any with me, or I'd give you one. I said I got a bunch of them. I said, what do you think about Biden? She said, well, I feel about him about how I do, paying $5 for gas. It just sucks. She said, I'll never vote for them folks again. She said, they ain't nothing but a bunch of liars and haters. She said, even the news is lying for them, and I'm sick of it. And
So
so
that's the lady. It sounds like she was voting Democrat, and
it
she's
sounded like she was voting Democrat. I, my boss's wife, she's like, I've never wanted to vote before because I didn't think my vote matters. But if
hmm
who do I got to vote for to get my gas prices down in November?
hmm
She says, who do I got to vote for in 2024 to get that guy out of there?
yeah.
You know, there's a lot of people that I believe that are not on the fence,
hmm
but are just over in they're in their own little world. They're working and they're busy with their lives, and they don't look up to really listen to the politics. They may listen to 30 minutes of what's on the TV, which a lot of times is lies. If you're
hmm
watching television, it's most of the time lies. Unless you're hunting out Newsmax or something. You're watching ABC or David Muir or Fox, even Fox Local. You're catching a bunch of garbage propaganda lies, and they're more concerned with the J6 committee than even giving you the weather or who
hmm
got shot today or what really happened with legislation. They don't want to talk about that stuff. They want to talk about how we got somebody else that believes they heard something the day that Trump did something way back when, and we got some more proof because somebody heard it from somebody else. And I'm just like, oh my god! And they've
Or
been
that
doing this for
hearsay
days.
testimony. Oh my goodness.
My wife, not my mother, my wife, she watches a little bit of that ABC and GMA television because she always has. We finally got the Fire Stick, so we have more selection, so much
Hmm.
more selection. I watch Newsmax and different things, but she still watches her GMA and stuff, and she knows I'm got a whole different view of politics than what she's watching, you know.
hmm
And I try to keep my mouth shut, and sometimes it's hard to do because I see them lying. I'm like, oh, I could tell you the real story. She's like, I don't want to hear it. I'm trying to watch the news. But she's realized, she's like, oh, God, the J6 is on again. Would these people get off of Trump? She said, I don't care if he did it or not. Let it go. I want to watch some TV. You know, because she'll be watching something on at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And breaking news, we got to interrupt the daily programming for special
Nonsense.
exclusive J6 garbage. And
Yes.
she's like, I'm like, I've got her watching a little bit of Newsmax with me. So she's coming around a little bit. Now,
Your wife is a Democrat?
No, I wouldn't say she's a Democrat. I would say she is a non-voter.
Okay.
She's one of these people that don't care about politics.
Oh, okay.
But now that the gas prices are she's like half of America.
She's starting to see. Okay.
And now the gas prices are $5. She's going, oh my God, Joe Biden is horrible.
Yeah.
You know, she sees it.
Maybe it does matter what's going on in politics. And out here, I'm just, trying to encourage people to be involved in this process and to be out there and be an election poll worker, be a clerk, be a volunteer, because, I think they're suffering too. These poll workers are suffering from this lack of people wanting to work there too. Like, we had to close one of the polls in our town because volunteers didn't show up. We didn't have enough volunteers. So, I definitely would encourage these people who are finally waking up and seeing that, hey, this is important. Our elections are really important, is, to be involved.
I cannot get the people here to understand that these machines are not our best choices. Let's just put it like that. As far as, it's in my opinion, right? And I had Pete Sessions was in West here 15-20 minutes away a couple months ago, and so I did a video on Rumble, on my Rumble channel about it. I filmed it, and I got to ask him some questions, and so did everybody in the room. And one of the very first questions was, have you seen that movie? You know the movie I'm talking about?
I know the movie, yeah.
And so his answer, and I have all
the donkeys, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he says, absolutely, and I recommend it to everybody, and anybody that hasn't seen it, get with my staff, and I'll show you how you can watch it for free. And this is Pete Sessions, who's our representative here for Waco District 17. And so great. I was shocked that he was so, and he was on film in 5 different directions. Channel 25 turned off their camera, and 44 turned off their camera, and the next 4 or 5 questions he got was from me and everybody else, and it was, what do you think we can do about the problem? What can we do to help secure the situation? And he's like, I have a problem with the fact of what happened in Dallas, and I can't get no accountability. He says he said these companies are immune to questioning from politicians, police. He said, I just don't. He says, I can't fathom how this is even makes any sense. And he says, I have a real problem with it. And he speaks out against it. So does a couple others here in Texas.
Well, I don't know if you've heard.
Steve Toth and a few others, but it was really kind of awakening to me to see somebody that actually was willing to take your questions. If most politicians would sit down in front of 100 people, and I'm not talking 100 reporters, just 100 people, podcasters included, and take one question from everybody, you'd find out what that person was like.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that's great that you've got a good representative like that. Mine is Kevin McCarthy, and I've not seen him out here.
He don't answer too many questions, huh?
No, I haven't seen him out here. I would definitely go if he came out here to answer to the people. But real quick before we have to go here, that movie about the donkeys, I mean, it is making a change. It's making some difference. There's a sheriff in one of the counties that was featured in that movie that has since started a nationwide network where they're going to have a single number where if people see something that is suspicious, that they have a single number that they can call. So they'll relay that information to the appropriate authorities and follow up and help give them resources. So that's fantastic,
awesome.
And hopefully that'll make a difference. But again, if just individual people get more involved in the process, the more eyes that are there, the less shenanigans that can be happening. But Shannon, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your
Absolutely.
story.
It's been fun.
I think that there's definitely a lot of silver linings in the story that's going on today, that people are waking up. The importance of having that side hustle and having some other skills. got to be able to pivot.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
but
Yeah, you can't just depend on one thing in life. You got to have more eggs in the basket than one.
yeah, definitely. Well, anyhow, God bless, Shannon, and wish you luck
Absolutely.
with your job search, and actually just starting out on your own and just doing well with that. So anyhow, I'll see you next time. All right.
Have a great one.
Yep.
Thanks.
All right. God bless. Bye.